This video tutorial is all about the nitrogen cycle. On the slide in front of you is an example of the nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen is an essential element to make proteins and DNA. Although the atmosphere is 78% nitrogen, it cannot be used directly because it is so unreactive. Microorganisms play a key role in the cycling of nitrogen in different compounds and converting it from one form to another. On the slide in front of you, you can see the relative composition of the air. As shown on this pie chart, there is plenty of nitrogen in the air, but it's just hard to access because it is so inert. Most organisms cannot use it in its nitrogen form. On the right-hand side of the slide is an image summarizing the structure of a nitrogen molecule. Now, each nitrogen molecule consists of two nitrogen atoms linked with a triple covalent bond. Before nitrogen can be used by living organisms, it must be converted from N2, nitrogen, into a more reactive form, such as ammonia ions, which is NH4+, or nitrates, for example, NO3 negative. Now here we have three different images. What do these three images have in common? The image on the left-hand side is of root nodules with nitrogen-fixing bacteria in. The middle image is of a lightning strike, and the third image is of the Haber process. All three of these images demonstrate examples of nitrogen fixation, where nitrogen in the air is converted into nitrogen compounds, such as nitrates in the soil, that can then be used, for example, by plants. So within the nitrogen cycle, we have four really important stages. The first is nitrogen fixation, where bacteria convert nitrogen, N2, gas into nitrates. The second is decomposition, where bacteria, and also fungi, convert organic material into ammonia. The third is nitrification, where bacteria convert ammonia into nitrates. And the fourth is denitrification, where bacteria convert nitrates into N2, nitrogen gas. So nitrogen gas in the atmosphere can be fixed into ammonium, NH4, by either lightning or nitrogen-fixing bacteria. Nitrates in animals and plant proteins can be decomposed by bacteria into ammonia, NH3, and also urea and feces for digestion. And these can then be decomposed into ammonia, NH3. Ammonia, NH3, can be converted into nitrates by nitrifying bacteria. And nitrates can be converted back into N2 gas, nitrogen gas in the atmosphere by denitrifying bacteria. So just to run through those three really key bacteria again, we've got nitrogen-fixing bacteria, nitrifying bacteria, and denitrifying bacteria. Nitrogen-fixing bacteria fix nitrogen with oxygen in the atmosphere to form solid nitrates. Nitrifying bacteria convert ammonia from decaying organisms into nitrates, and denitrifying bacteria convert soil nitrates, so that's nitrates in the soil, back into nitrogen gas. So on the left-hand side, we've got another image here of the root nodules on bean roots. Nitrifying bacteria, or nitrogen-fixing bacteria, live in the root nodules on these bean roots. They can fix nitrogen gas, so N2, into nitrates that the plant can use to build amino acids. And this is absolutely fundamentally important for the fixation of nitrogen, so that other living organisms can use it within their DNA and proteins. Root hairs can then uptake the nitrogen ions by active transport. The nitrate is converted into ammonium and then amino acids. Most of the nitrogen ends up as part of protein molecules in the plant. Animals can get their nitrogen from plants in their diet. So through the process of digestion, they can break up the proteins into amino acids. Absorbed amino acids in the blood can then be redistributed for use. Any excess amino acids can then be converted to urea in the liver and excreted in urine. Everything that I've mentioned so far within the nitrogen cycle is entirely natural. However, there's an incredibly important process that you also need to be aware of. This is the Haber process. What would you say is the most important discovery made in the past few centuries? Is it the computer, the car, electricity, or maybe the discovery of the atom? Some people would argue that it's this chemical reaction, where a nitrogen gas molecule plus 3 hydrogen gas molecules gets converted into 2 ammonia gas molecules. This is the Haber process. An incredibly important process, which has essentially completely changed the provision of food on Earth. Without this reaction, farmers would not be capable of producing enough food. In fact, they'd only be capable of producing food for about 4 billion people. Our current population is over 7 billion people. So without the Haber process, about 3 billion people would be without food.